Hey y'all, it's Future Ryan here. Just want to let you know this video was recorded on Wednesday, which was before the news that came out today on Friday that Matthew Schultz will be starting in place of Bo Levi Mitchell on Saturday's game for the Hamilton Tiger Cats against the Montreal Alouettes. So if it seems a bit stale, don't worry about it. This was recorded on Wednesday. Just want to pass along that breaking news to you. But go ahead, please enjoy the rest of the video. And welcome to another edition of 10 Good Minutes here on No Credentials Required. I'm one of your co-hosts, Ryan McCarthy. Just want to remind you before we go on, talk 10 good minutes of CFL with Darren Dupont. Just want to remind you to please go ahead and like, comment, share, and subscribe to the No Credentials Required YouTube channel. Also subscribe to our podcast wherever you podcast. But let me bring in my guest this week for this week's edition of 10 Good Minutes. He is co-host of the Rod Peterson Show. He's also a man of many hats based out of Toronto, Canada. We've got Darren Dupont. Darren, how are we doing today, bud?
Doing great, Ryan. Appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, thanks for being here. I appreciate you taking some time to have I know you're a busy guy and just appreciate you taking some time out of your day to talk some football.
Absolutely. Looking forward to it.
All right, so let's start with the East semifinal. Hamilton at Montreal. Montreal won the season series 3-0. But I'm seeing this as a battle of the trenches this game. Montreal's offensive line, kind of sketchy when it comes to the pass protection. I guess you could say the same thing about Hamilton, but Hamilton's got kind of an X factor here with Bo Levi Mitchell as their quarterback. What do you see going on in this game? What do you see going on with the what's the biggest storyline you see coming into this game?
Yeah, I'm pretty curious about what comes out of this game, no doubt. You know, you look at that season series. I don't put stock really in the last game just on the weekend. I mean, it was what, a 2-point win. It was tight. It was but a meaningless
lots of replacements everywhere.
Yeah, meaningless game. Look, I look at some of the other ones. I mean, they blew out Hamilton. I think it was like 38-12 earlier in the year, back in the summer. You know, in both the other wins, they were not really close, right, over Hamilton. So there's that. Bo Levi's an interesting X factor, but let's not forget, you know, Hamilton started so slow, and they were 5-2 down the stretch. So they've been playing some better football as of late, coming into the playoffs. Bo comes back, a chance to wipe the slate clean. So that's interesting. I think Montreal definitely probably should have the edge. They're playing at home, which is big. But for me, how does Montreal handle the pressure? How does Cody Fajardo and Jason Moss handle the pressure of the playoff game, right? Cody's had a good season. Jason has, and the Alouettes have had a good season. They've earned the home playoff game. But Cody hasn't been without his flaws too, right? You said protection's been an issue. It's created turnovers when the protection is broken down. And Cody's thrown some tough interceptions. You can't do that here in the playoffs. So it'll be important to see if Montreal can control the ball, be patient, avoid the turnovers, and use that home crowd to their advantage.
Yeah, I think that for me, I'm seeing Montreal's home crowd as the 13th, I mean, St. Saskatchewan, the 13th man. But this time it's in Montreal, and I was looking at some of the storylines from last year. Joey Alfieri on MontrealAlouettes.com had a really good article about how it's important for fans to come out to the game on Saturday. And one of the factors he said was that the crowd, with the noise they made last year, it led to 3 procedure penalties. And in America, procedure is false. You can say it's false start. It's the same type of penalty.
Yeah.
But the home crowd being so important, you know, it could be the 13th man for the Montreal Alouettes at Molson Stadium on Saturday.
Why not? You know, it's an intimate stadium. They're right there, close to the field. I think it could be a factor for sure. And the same thing with Bo too. Like talk about the turnovers. When he's on, he has a chance to kind of redeem himself here. He has a chance to write a new story, change the way this career ends or this career moves forward, right? In the playoffs. You win in the playoffs and Bo's back, right? You can write that narrative.
Yep.
But they have to be careful too, because once it starts going the wrong way for him, we've seen it go really south really quickly. So that'll be, for me, who can play cleaner, who can avoid the mistakes. I think that'll be the big factor.
Now, I'm going to throw wicked curve at you here, Darren. So you mentioned Bo Levi. It's Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde with him. If things go great, if he's in the zone, things are going to go great. Hamilton could win this game. However, if things go south very quickly, do we see Taylor Powell at the quarterback position anytime in this game, or is this Bo's show?
Absolutely, you could see him for sure. I think, I saw somewhere that, it's so uncharacteristic, but Bo would be open to that idea. And I think that they're planning, or at least looking at, okay, let's make sure Taylor Powell's ready to go. Let's make sure Bo Levi Mitchell's ready to go, because we may need both of these guys. And whatever it takes, honestly, to win in the playoffs, you have to be willing to do this time of year. If that means roll 2 quarterbacks, great. If that means pulling the plug quickly, great. Because let's not forget something else, another wrinkle in this whole storyline is it kind of feels like Orlando Steinauer might be coaching for his job this weekend against Montreal as well. The expectations are sky high. They're hosting a Grey Cup. Do I go into this weekend expecting Hamilton to get to the Grey Cup, or think that needs to be the standard? That's always the standard, but I'm not sitting here expecting that. But for Orlando Steinauer and for the Hamilton Tiger Cats, they have to really consider if they, get into the playoffs. Yes, they were better down the stretch, but they kind of limped through the season. And if you get into the playoffs and are one and done after, you had the great season, 15-3, I think it was, a few years ago now, and it really hasn't been lighting the world on fire since. There's a lot of pressure on Orlando Steinauer. So he can't sit on Bo Levi or Taylor Powell for too long if things are going sideways.
True. All right, we're going to move on to the West semifinal at BC Place in Vancouver. This is going to be a very interesting game in my mind, because I see it. There's two directions we could go. BC has had an extra week off to get healthy, get prepared for a Calgary team that absolutely took them to the woodshed 2 weeks ago. Calgary's coming in. They lost last week, but again, 3 of those games, we just had a lot of reserves play in those games. Same with Calgary when they played Winnipeg. But the psychological factor I see Calgary has, because they did an absolute great job a couple weeks ago on a Friday, and absolutely taking out the BC Lions' high-powered offense and putting some points on their defense. Could you say that Calgary has a psychological advantage, or does BC have the advantage with the extra rest that they got?
Well, the rest is important. I do think the rest is key. There's a lot of psychological advantage that Calgary can have over a lot of teams, especially, the head-to-head. But when you look across the sideline and you see Dave Dickinson, you see John Huffnagel up in the booth, even adding guys like Nick Lewis to the coaching staff that have been there, a part of those great Calgary teams, that adds a psychological advantage. Not to mention, you go into that last meeting and that Calgary defense forced 4 interceptions. That Calgary defense limited the way BC was able to run the football. They got to the quarterback. And things that Calgary was able to do this year, protect Jake Maier, not allow a lot of sacks. So, and they're getting healthier too. So it's interesting when you think about that. But I think for me, the biggest X factor, you talked about it for the Eastern semifinal, I think it's more of a factor in the West semi, and that's the home crowd. I think if they can get that lower bowl filled, they can start selling the upper deck. It gets loud inside that stadium. I think that could be a factor. And if Vernon Adams Jr., the start is really key, because if Calgary makes a big play on defense, if Calgary creates an early turnover, if Calgary gets to Vernon Adams and gets in his face, it could turn south quickly for the home team. But if he has a little sliver of success right away, we could see that 450-yard game, and BC could just roll through to the West final.
Yeah, and you got 2, I would say, juggernauts waiting in the wings, both in the East and the West, between Toronto in the East with a historic season they had, and Winnipeg being, if they win their third Grey Cup in 4 seasons, you could call it a dynasty. You could call it a dynasty in Winnipeg. They just had to get through the West final. But in my mind, I kind of see Rick Campbell, coach of the BC Lions. I would say this guy's a seasoned veteran coach too. he knows how to win. He won a Grey Cup in 2016 with Ottawa, went back to the Grey Cup in 2018 with Ottawa, lost to Calgary, but still, Rick Campbell's no slouch either when it comes to coaching.
He's not at all. He knows what he's doing, and he'll have his team ready to go. They've got weapons on the outside. Keon Hatcher leading the way. They've got a great receiving core. What he's been able to do to seamlessly transition from Nathan Rourke, who seemed like a franchise savior, getting that team back on track and among the leaders in the Canadian Football League, and then just handing things over to Vernon Adams. The way that they've been able to work with Vernon and continue to operate this offense, not at a high level, at an elite level, I think has been a great coaching job, but also those players too. This is going to be a lot of fun to watch and see how they show up in the playoffs.
Yeah, I won't ask for your predictions. I know you'll give them on the Rod Peterson show, but you don't have to give a prediction. I won't make you do a prediction here. I'll do my own prediction though. I'll say Montreal wins a close game against Hamilton, and I think BC, with the home advantage, the home crowd advantage especially, because, and like you said, with Hamilton, we don't know which we're going to see from Bo Levi Mitchell. We're not going to see what we saw from Jake Mayer. He's also Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde. So if BC can get to him early, I think they take the win, and they book their ticket to Winnipeg. But
look, I'll make a prediction for you. My prediction is these games will come down to the final 3 minutes, each of them. Okay. But that's not really a prediction because that's the Canadian Football League. So that's not that bold. But as you mentioned that, my final thought on this is how great and how far the CFL's come. This is the good position the league's in right now, as opposed to the last few years. Yeah. You look at the Final Four, you look at the final, 6 teams that are left. We have marquee quarterbacks in every single market, right? In this game, from Vernon Adams and Jake Mayer, are now established household starters. And you look at Cody Fajardo and Bo Levi Mitchell, and waiting in the wings is Zach Collaros and Chad Kelly. This is exactly what the CFL needs. Starting quarterbacks, healthy, playing in the playoffs at a high level. It's going to be a treat for the fans.
I don't disagree with you there. Don't disagree with you there. Darren, before we take off, just want would you like to give us an indication, good people indication where to find you, where to find the Rod Peterson Show?
Yeah, find the show every day. Game Plus Television on your local cable carrier across Canada and throughout the United States, but also every day on YouTube. RodPeterson.com is the website. My handle's at Darren Dupont. Follow me everywhere, and we can connect.
All right, Darren Dupont, Rod Peterson Show, amongst other things. Thanks for being here on No Credentials Required for 10 good minutes and then some.
Thanks, Rod.